Shout out to Wayne Curtis for sending me this article, and we all know who this is on the screen. And I'm not really so much shocked about what I'm about to read, but I'm like, can we just call BS BS at the end of the day? Because I think that this is just a load of crap. So 44 has come out and admitted and said that he says that reparations for Black Americans deserve to be given out. He basically said they were justified. But the reason that he gave as to why he didn't talk about it or push for it more when he was in office sounds like a BS move to me. So this is what I'm about to read to you is the title of the article. It says Obama calls for reparations for Black Americans because the wealth of this country was built on the backs of slaves. Well, we already knew that. You're telling us something we already knew. Like, tell us something we don't know. But says he couldn't get it done as president due to the politics of white resistance. You want to know why I call BS on that? Because he was able to pass legislation and so many other policies for so many other groups without so-called white resistance. But then when it came to talking about reparations, all of a sudden there was resistance for that. My thing is this. A lot of the stuff that he did for other groups of people, you would have thought that there would have been some white resistance there, but it wasn't. And I can't help but think that he's saying that it was white resistance because he heard other people saying that that's probably what it was. When you think about it, I believe that he didn't give out reparations because he didn't want to. He did legislation for the academy and all these other groups. We always said that he was more of a president for them than anybody else. When they were saying, you know, was he a president for Black people? He said, no, I'm a president for all people. In so many words. He basically pulled a clown Mala before she could. You know, when she was asked specifically what she was going to do for Black people, specifically Black Americans, she would say no, and whatever it is that she said, was it a couple years ago now. So I think his statement of saying that it's justified, yeah, it is justified. We already knew that, but like moving on, like how close do we get to the check being cut? Like he could have done something. I truly believe he could have, but he chose not to. He chose to do things for other groups, but he chose not to do for the majority of the people that put him in office. That could have been one of the single solitary things he could have did. If he was to pass legislation to get reparations approved for Black Americans, you know, Black people probably, I'm not gonna say they would have like gave him a pass on every single thing, but they definitely would have not come at his neck the way that they do, or the way that we do, I should say. Because we know what he's done for other groups and the benefits that they're receiving right now. Look at, like I said, the academy. Look at DACA and the Blue Lives Matter bill, law, whatever that is. All of that came under him. But when it came to reparations for Black people, that was non-existent. He even at one point said that he didn't believe Black people should get it. Last I checked. What's with this turnaround, this turnabout thing now? What brought this on? Like I said, I believe it's because other Black people was telling him about himself, and now he has a change of heart and a change of tune. But here's the thing, though. 44, you're no longer president. So what can you do? That's what I'd like to know. What policy can you change now that you're no longer here, no longer in a position to make that change? Exactly. It is too little, too late. So I just had to get all of that off my chest before I get into the article. Now I'm about to see what exactly they're saying about this. Former President Barack Obama claimed reparations for Black Americans are justified, but explained in his podcast with Bruce Springsteen that it was a non-starter during his presidency because of white resistance. And I think he said that because that was a convenient and safe thing for him to say. Not saying that it wasn't any resistance there, but the thing is, why wasn't there resistance for anything else? Why was he so free to pass legislation for all these other things like illegal immigrants and the academy and Blue Lives Matter and all of that stuff? Why was he able to do that so freely? But when it came to Black people, now it's convenient for him to say, oh, it was white resistance. We said that it was most likely probably because of that as well. But then when you really look beneath the surface of things and go a little deeper, I think it was a bit more of he just didn't want to do it. I think at the end of the day, he did have some kind of say in this, truth be told. During his 2008 presidential campaign, Obama appeared to oppose reparations and argued that the best reparations we can provide are good schools in the inner city and jobs for people who are unemployed. There you go. 2008. That was in his first run. And he said that. that he opposed it. I knew I wasn't hearing things or just reading, something that was scattered around. He said that. But now he feels that it's justified, but you're out of office. What can you do now? Like, you can't do anything. You're not president anymore. You're former president. There's a difference between former and current. Former does not make any policy changes. So in my honest opinion, he could have kept this statement to himself. Honestly. Obama, age 59, has launched an 8-episode podcast series called Renegades Born in the USA with the 71-year-old rock legend, released through Spotify's partnership with the Obama's Higher Ground production company. In the second episode, released on Monday, Obama and Springsteen spoke about race relations in the United States. And isn't it amazing that he nothing against Bruce Springsteen, but isn't it amazing how Obama loves to go and talk to other groups of other ethnic groups about race relations in America, and notice that most of the time they tend to be Caucasian. That's just something that I noticed. I don't know if y'all picked that up, but that's just me. Springsteen asked Obama how he can hold that the same country that sent a man to the moon is the same country of Jim Crow laws, which were state and local statutes that legalized racial segregation and marginalized Black Americans. We never went through a true reckoning, and so we just buried one huge part of our experience in our citizenry in our minds. Obama responds. The Born in the USA crooner then noted that it feels like a reckoning is being called for before asking Obama if the country is prepared to consider reparations, which are payments made in programs created to help the descendants of slavery. If you ask me theoretically, are reparations justified? Then the answer is yes, Obama responded. There's not much question that the wealth of this country, the power of this country, was built in significant part, not exclusively, maybe not even the majority of it, but a large portion of it was built on the backs of slaves. The former president added that what is also true is that after the formal end of slavery, the systematic oppression and discrimination of Black Americans continued under Jim Crow. It resulted in Black families not being able to build up wealth and not being able to compete, and that has generational effects. My thing is this, Obama, you're hitting a lot of key points here. Why weren't these key points hit when you were president is what I'd like to know. Like, where was all of this that he's talking about with Bruce Springsteen on this podcast? Where was all of this discussion when you were president? But he had enough time to talk down on Black people, especially other Black males. And when I say Black males, I'm talking about both boys and men. He had enough time to talk down like we were beneath him. But now he's talking about, oh, that is justified and all this and that and the third. Like, he can actually change something now. The only thing that people will be on his side is because of who he is, and he still has a considerable large fan base, and that's about it. Where did I see? Okay, so if you're thinking of what's just, you would look back and you would say the descendants of those who suffer those kind of terrible and cruel and often arbitrary injustices deserve some sort of regress, some sort of compensation or recognition. Springsteen then asked Obama how a president can push for something so justified. This brings us to, could you actually get that kind of justice? Could you get a country to agree and own that history? And my judgment was that as a practical matter, that was unattainable, Obama said. We can't even get this country to provide decent schooling for inner city kids. Obama said that a reparations proposal would have been met with the politics of white resistance and white resentment during his presidency. Well, I need to know what was some of the policies that he did approve get met with, because I'm almost certain some of those policies did get met with quote unquote white resistance, but he still passed them anyway. Obama said, the talk of welfare queens and the talk of the undeserving poor and the backlash against the affirmative action, all that made the prospect of actually proposing any kind of coherent, meaningful reparations program struck me as politically, not only as a non-starter, but potentially counterproductive. See, the thing is, he already planted in his own mind mentally that he would be met with quote unquote white resistance before he could even possibly put something on the table to get passed. But he had no problem passing all those other legislations and not worrying about white resistance. See, like, if you really analyze all of this, like I said, it's nothing but a fluff piece to try to make him appear good amongst people that used to be fans of him. or used to be supporters of him, or people that see him through for what he really, for who he truly is. I guess you could say what as well. Because this just screams to me gives to me a lot of what if isms. The former president noted on the podcast that he understands why white folks might oppose the practice of reparations. He said it's perfectly understandable why working class white folks, middle class white folks, folks who are having trouble paying the bills or dealing with student loans or don't have the health care where they feel the government has let them down, wouldn't be too thrilled with a massive program that is meant to deal with the past but isn't speaking to their future. Well, who cares? Who cares? That just says to me like he's trying to soften the blow. Who really gives a damn? Because if it was the other way around, they wouldn't be doing or saying all of this. However, the former president said he also understands arguments why it has remained a continued discussion in politics for more than 30 years. I understand the argument of people like Ta-Nehisi Coates that we should talk about it anyway for no other reason than to educate the country about a past that too often isn't taught. And let's face it, we'd rather forget, Obama said. Mr. Touchy-Feely, who served as the former vice president under Obama, has supported the idea of forming a commission to study reparations, but has stopped short of fully endorsing legislation. Did you hear that? So we're good enough to study, because I always tell y'all they love to study us like we're lab rats and experiments and whatnot. They love to have a study conducted, but it said fell short of fully endorsing legislation. And this was the current president right here. So Obama was 46, a part of that white resistance that you got met with, the one that you still are buddy with, at least seemingly on the surface. Seems to me you was in bed with that white resistance. Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, a Democrat, most recently introduced H.R. 40, that crap, to the House of Representatives in January. The bill would form a committee to study and develop reparations. See, again, a study. I just recently did a video about the Asians in California getting a $1.4 million fund or whatever. Did they do a study on them? Oh, or did they just look at them and say, oh, they're Asian? They look it. There you go. Meanwhile, they're doing it for the whole Asia community, no matter what country in Asia they come from. But when it comes to black people in America, oh, there has to be a study. We have to do a litmus test. They have to say the ABCs backwards. They have to count all the way to 1 million without skipping a number. They have to know their social security number. They have to, count how many marbles are in the jar. It's like they have to do so much extracurricular shit when it comes to us and the talk of reparations and us actually getting it. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters it's working its way through Congress, not fast enough if it actually is. When asked if Biden would sign the bill if it passes, we certainly support a study, but we'll see what happens through the legislative process. It's always a study. It's always a but in there. Every time it comes to us, there's a but. And usually that but is an ass. It's a 9 statement that follows behind it. Y'all like how I did that? But yeah, 44 can take his little statement and, as the old folks used to say, stick it where the sun don't shine, because that's such crap. It really is. It's a joke. Just like this HR 40 thing is a joke. They got Herschel Walker and Larry Elder up there talking about reparations, and they spoke against it the whole time. And then look who they do have for HR 40. Sheila Jackson Lee, can't trust her either. The people that they should have up there talking about it, they don't, and we know why that is. Because they're going to put them in their place, and they're going to actually make good arguments. Listen, the fact of the matter is they don't want to pay them. Now, wouldn't this be the thing? Wouldn't it be interesting if the only way this economy could get back on track is if they was to actually pay what they owe to black Americans? But the thing is, if that is the case, their ego is so inflated and so filled with hot air, like a hot air balloon, that they will not bring themselves to even save their own economy, because that means it would mean black people being saved economically, politically, socially, and everywhere else in between that we have been lacking since the inception of this nation, of us being here. But they're not going to do that. They can't bring themselves to do that. Like I said, their pride is too inflated to do that. They will let this thing implode on itself before they even think of cutting or signing one check, even if it's to save the nation. Well, that's going to be on them. That's all I have to say. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you have not done so already. Please text the number that is pinned down in the comments below so you can receive notifications every time I upload a new video.